Hey guys, welcome to Low Key Legends, and I got another story for you today. I was contemplating really hard about what to tell. Like, would I give another good story, another bad story, something a little bit in between? So, this is a meh story. No, it's not a meh story, but it is good. Like, we had fun. Not everyone had fun, but when you're playing a game that the purpose of it is PvP, there's a lot of salt in the room. You know, it was a salt mine, if you will. And what we were playing was Sliverage Sentinels, which is a superpower tabletop game. The way you build characters is really easy, actually. You get a set of points, and then with those points, you build your character. And you pick your levels based on your strength, your mind, your soul. Then you pick your powers. You put points into those levels. Every level gives you another effect. For instance, super speed is like 60 miles an hour at level 1. Then it jumps to like 150 at level 2. And then level 3, it like jumps to like 500. Super strength is like, I can lift a car. I can lift a semi. I can lift a plane. I can lift a yacht. So as you buy more points in the powers, their scopes and things increase. So my friend Pat was running the game, and it was in his superhero setting. It's called Babylon, which is already awesome. And it was Babylon City, which was like this free city that was off the coast, kind of like in international waters. Think of like the law in Babylon it had a very much Night City cyberpunk kind of feel, where big corporations and stuff kind of ruled over the masses and government. But anyway, heroes and villains. So the first thing I noticed, everyone wanted to be a villain, and like two people wanted to be heroes. Everybody wanted to be a bad guy. So that immediately was the first issue. It was fine. Like, I knew I would make a hero first anyway, or I'd make a hero. So I made a hero, and a few other guys made a hero, and we start the game, and there's already like issues. And I think this is the issues with a PvP system in general. Ground rules. We need some base ground rules first. And it was very much us just going at each other. And like half the party wanted to kind of like role play these hero villain relationships, and half the group was like just attacking other people and fighting. So you had like kind of two things going on in the game. You had some people who were like being very like classical comic villain, where they had plans and plots, and then you had people who were just fighting because they wanted to fight. So it was a little bit weird trying to get that balance in. But we also had players who were just not very happy about the PvP. So we had a lot of characters die back and forth. And so I guess I'll just talk about some of the most memorable deaths, and we'll go from there. So first of all, let me explain one of the characters that had the highest kill count. And it was Nick who was playing it. I know you're all shocked that Nick had the highest kill count among our heroes and villains. It was his villain that he called like War Dog, and he had like a module armor kind of skill set, and he had like these different rounds, and he was just a sniper, an invisible sniper, and he was a headhunter. And boy, he literally caused a new rule that when you died as a hero or villain, you came back with another character on the other side. I think he killed like 5 or 6 people. Now, I think you're like, wow, he killed 5 or 6 different people at the table. No. He killed 5 or 6 characters, but all these characters belonged to like 2 people. He kept murdering them over and over again. And you could tell that things were getting a little frustrating. They come back with different powers and things like, well, now I can see invisible things. Okay. He still got you killed. Like, it was really silly. Like, I mean, in that kind of scenario, you almost want to play with people who understand that there is going to be kind of like a conflict. So funny enough, I lost my first character literally due to roleplay. The character literally established a part of the city under a ward of protection and could no longer leave that area because if they did, the ward around their protection would leave, which was keeping the people safe. And Pat was like, man, how are you going to leave with this thing on? I'm like, well, they can't really leave. But no one's going to come into that domain because as soon as you do, like all these effects go off. I was like, did I just role play my character out of the game? And Pat was like, yes, you did. And I was like, okay. That brings us hero number 2. And I think it is probably my top 5 characters I've ever made as far as just story goes. So his name was Arthur Dole, and this was, of course, a shout out to Arthur Conan Doyle, the writer of the Sherlock Holmes series. So his name was Arthur Dole, and he was a prosecutor in the city, the super corrupt city. But he used to be a cop, and so his ability was like telepathy with postcognition and telekinesis. He was a psionic. And essentially what he could do was read the psychic traces in the room. And with the psychic traces in the room and evidence, he could literally rewatch a crime scene. So Dole had like 100% conviction rate if they were guilty because he literally saw the crime, gathered the evidence. He just get the confessions. He was a hardcore guy. So in his mind, he needed to arrest a lot of these criminals. And I played it off with another power where when he used his powers, he would describe it like it was tech because the city had like kind of futuristic technology. So when I was using a psychic force field, I had like a little device that would emit like a light that made it look like the light was the force field. So everyone thought I was using gear when I was actually using my own psychic abilities. So, not going to get too more, but like it was just really cool playing this like kind of detective noir prosecutor. So then on the other hand, we have our old friend, Brenna. She was a agent of chaos. Shout out to you, Brenna. But you can't deny this. You were literally an agent of chaos with every character you made, even your lawful ones. But she made a character based off of the White Violin, the comics from the Umbrella Academy. I'm sure you're all familiar, but she made more of it was closer to the comic version, but with her own kind of twist to fit Babylon as a whole. So her character had decided to very much be the Joker to my Batman. But she was much more powerful. So essentially, she causes this terrible event and essentially turns my like lawful character that was very much a Harvey Dent, like before he was Two-Face type character, into a Batman type character, which then he became Babylon Noir, which is, so he's like in now like a powered suit. And he's fighting crime, and he's on a mission of vengeance. She actually she made me Batman with her actions. So during this time, one of our friends who was playing at the time had their character like blown up in their own building by Nick, then sniped and killed by Nick. So now he's a villain again, and his villain is literally from the Antarctics, and her whole stick is, I want to turn the world into an endless winter. That's the goal. I want winter around the world. And he would exclaim that to his character, having the world frozen over isn't evil, it's just what should be. We're like, okay, did this to their whole village, just froze them up and was like, yep, that's the way the world works, and now has come to Babylon to bring it into an endless winter. So now, me and the few heroes And my friend Tom, who was like playing a character who was pretty much like an altered carbon, had like a deck. So when his body would die, he'd load it into a new body and all that kind of stuff. Me and him become like a team. And eventually, me and him actually put down Nick's character. And when we put down Nick's character, we form a vigilante group called Hammurabi. You know, the king of Babylon, right? Poetic stuff. And like kind of like eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Like we will be the villains to villains. Very much going a more Punisher route. While the few heroes remaining were part of like a hero organization. We're taking like the above not Captain A. Like Justice League type route, and we're very much more like Punisher type thing. You know, we're very much more gritty vigilante side of things. More violent too. Like my character gained a flaw that he could go into rages. So here we go. Of course, the agent of chaos that she is has gathered all the villains together. It made her League of Villainy. And they like drop the meta prison on the Capitol and all the people are breaking out, including this necromancer that we modeled after Sam B because of his song Who Do You Voodoo. And it was so like we had the music from Dead Island playing in the background while like the zombies are moving around. It's all crazy. We're all having a good time. So while we're doing this, Ice Girl, that's what I'll call her. Ice Girl has a power that essentially she is like freezing 35, 40 people at a time who are running from the chaos. And then the very next attack, because you got more than one attack in a round, she's like popping them. So just like 40 freezes, pop them. 40 freezing, next turn, pop them. So we're like arriving to the scene. Some of the other heroes have gotten there already, but we're also hunted down by the heroes because we go too far. So Hammurabi shows up. And we're like, yeah, it's time. All right, we're going to take down this necromancer. And then he goes, okay, as you guys arrive, you see me freeze 40 people and burst them like glass. And then we go, I guess you're our target. Like, it just made sense. Like, we could do this or this person who's right in front of us. So, two of our characters jump on him while I go help deal with the big guy. And of course, he's fighting a 2-on-1, and it is a Nick character. So Nick knows the system very well. He builds very good characters. Not that everyone at this point weren't proficient, but he was just better. So he gets captured. His Ice Girl gets captured. So do we turn Ice Girl in? No, we're Hammurabi. It's eye for an eye. It's a tooth for a tooth. The villains here have gone far too far, way too far. Man, far too far. That's weird. Okay. Anyway, also far too far. So we capture her, and in like one of our like bases, like we turn on like a camera type deal, and the dude who's the decker, he hacks everyone's like phones, and all the TVs are now airing us like have a talk. And like I said, we're borderline, we're barely good guys here. We're very much hardcore vigilantes. And so like I give this whole speech about what justice means, and would you give, I could turn her in, but she'll be in the same system that let those other villains go. I then mention, she's killed like a list of these people. I play the footage, and I'm like, so it's up to the city to decide her fate. So essentially everyone gets an app downloaded on their phones where they can vote that she gets turned into the authorities or she gets the justice of Babylon. Hammurabi's eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth kind of thing. So during this time, like the character, Ice Girl's character, is very upset. And clearly so. His character's literally just been abducted, and we're leaving his execution up to everyone else. And it's all role play. And I get that that's kind of salty, knowing your character is not in control of the situation, and you're literally at the mercy of other people. I mean, so I understand that frustration. I mean, I literally had a character die like the very, But anyway. So his character is going on this rant about like, you guys aren't real heroes. You guys aren't good guys. And above board, he's like, you guys aren't playing heroes. You're not heroes. You're villains. I'm like, Mm, meh. That was my answer. Meh. So, the city votes, right? And when the city votes, after all of that, the city votes for her to be dealt with. So Pat starts describing like, oh yeah, so you're going to grab out your gun and just kind of back out. And I was like, nah, I use my hands. And everyone stopped and turned at me like over the TV. I'm like, yeah, like my character is now at the point where he wants to make an example. He wants villains to be scared to be villains. So he uses his hands and everyone just looked at me like, wow, Aaron, Nick may have killed like 5 people in this game so far, but he didn't beat anyone to death with their hands. I'm like, you right. So anyway, the character then blows up and we come back. The game was really fun. It was super enjoyable. But PvP is a real tenuous thing. I would say that if you want to run that kind of game, let everyone know that they're going to go through characters. Let everyone understand that characters are going to die and may not die the way they like to. And it can get real salty at the table. It was fun. I think in the end, we all had a good time playing overall. But those are the breaks. So for anyone who's, like I said, going to run PvP, even if it's not the game, like this whole game was around PvP. It was literally heroes and villains fighting each other. But not every game is like that. But there are times in games where there is conflict that brings to where the characters would fight it out. This is when, as a DM, it's your choice to decide how that plays out. Now, I have been at tables where PvP is completely X. Like, we do not do that in this house. And that is fine, because a lot of times people get really attached to their characters, and a character losing to another character doesn't leave, some people can't role play that, and there's a lot of other issues that go involved with that. So I would say if your characters are okay with resolving the conflict that way, and everyone's on board, you can allow it to play out. If not, then it is perfectly okay to shut it down and to stop like, hey, we're not doing that here at this table. We need to figure out another solution. So is PvP good? Yeah. Is PvP enhancing to a game? It can be. Can PvP wreck a game? Absolutely. So when it comes to that kind of thing and players are fighting players, be very careful about your table. Read your room, read your players, and sometimes stop the game and just ask, like, hey, you guys look like you're headed to a fight. Is this going to be okay? Or is this going to spawn a string of problems? Like, there's no point in having 2 characters fight it out, and then at the end of it, someone's like, well, I'm going to make a character that's going to hate your character and going to kill your character. Because that's how horror stories start. And that's really what we want to avoid here. That's the true goal of Low Key Legends. How to make sure your game doesn't end up on Reddit as a horror story. So continue to listen, continue to like. I hope you guys enjoyed this little snippet. And remember, guys, the quest never ends.